Want to bring in Jimmy Pethokoukis, economic policy analyst, the American Enterprise Institute, a CNBC contributor. Jimmy, I saw you nodding, and then you shook your head, and then you gave me the middle finger. I think I'm kidding. Should we ban any kind of congressional trading, or at least impose a minimum holding period while they're in office?
Yeah, to be clear, there's already a law on the books from 2012 about members of Congress trading on non-public information. So we're talking about public information. And sort of the cold-hearted economist in me says, listen, congressional trades give the market information. We have a more efficient market. Is that such a bad thing? Now, I will say I would like more frequent and easier to follow disclosure. Hard to follow disclosure once a year doesn't really seem adequate. But beyond that, I'm not sure this is actually a huge problem, especially if a lot of that is just a few members, as Ylan said.
I don't know if it's a big problem, Jimmy. It just stinks, though, right? I mean, the problem is that the public needs to have faith in Congress. And if they think that somebody's trading options in Facebook or Google or Apple and then writing legislation that may benefit or harm those same companies, how are you supposed to have faith in that legislation?
Well, I wish the public understood the ins and outs of trading options. Maybe the CNBC audience does, and Facebook. I'm not sure most Americans know about that. If Congress wants respect, then do a good job. I think this is really, it's certainly more of a perception issue than it is a corruption issue. So I can understand them wanting to do that. So for starters, let's try the disclosure route. On trades of public information and longer holding periods. I mean, that doesn't sound like a bad idea, but I'm not sure I necessarily want them not to be in the market. Hey, I want them to be just like us. We're in the market. I don't mind them in the market and understanding the ups and downs of the markets as well.
The answer that we commonly hear from lawmakers when we ask about this, particularly if the assets are being held by their spouse or by their children, is that they have no involvement in sort of the day-to-day movement of their money, right? These are handled by third parties. However, it's very unclear exactly what that means. Does it mean you know what assets are in your portfolio? You choose the ones that go in there? Do you set a strategy, on a quarterly basis, even if it's maybe not day to day? And so some of the new rules that are being debated would sort of formalize what those parameters would be and what that distance that lawmakers need to have from their portfolios would have to be.
So basically, they're just saying, I'm hiding it from my spouse. I mean, that's kind of
my
what
spouse is hiding it from me.
That's kind of what you just said. It's okay. Don't worry. I don't talk about trading millions in options with my husband or wife. Why would I? It's kind of what right?
Depends on which side of the aisle you're on.
Or the kitchen table.
Or the kitchen table.
Jay Powell, Jimmy, let's pivot a little bit. Yeah. I tweeted, I don't know if you heard the beginning of the show, I was asking the former CEO of Wells Fargo, two things. Why isn't Janet Yellen getting any criticism here? I don't get that. It's like she's vanished. Should Jay Powell and or Janet Yellen be replaced?
I'm very touchy about replacing.
I mean, they can't be. I mean, it could be. Powell's got a contract. He's got a deal.
Listen, this may sound old-fashioned, but I want the Fed to be independent. And one of the great things that we did in the 1980s. One of the great things we did in the 80s, and even though when Paul Volcker was hiking and there were people furious, they knew who the Fed chairman was and they were angry, and yet President Reagan supported him. We're going through a difficult period. Right now, I think the Fed chairman needs support, not calls for his dismissals. And whether we want to renominate him, find someone else, that's fine. But right now, I think we need to let the Fed do its job, independent as much as possible from political pressure.
Well, hey, and we got to go. But Ylan, I saw a tweet from Elizabeth Warren, Senator Warren, basically going after Powell. I think it was yesterday.
Senator Warren,
if they're apolitical, that's not apolitical.
Senator Warren has long been critical of Jay Powell, so that's not necessarily surprising that she's going after him. I have not heard anyone in Congress say that Janet Yellen needs to go at this point. But I will say that the Republicans blame the Fed for not getting started soon enough in terms of hiking rates. So they sort of are where the market is now in terms of that perspective. And I would say that they also blame President Biden for putting us in what they say is a recession now. We'll see if that plays out.
Yeah, I'm not a big believer in political parties, but I will say electricity prices are soaring, mortgage rates are at 7%, and the stock market's down 30%. The stock-owning Congress people might even get hit. Then they may do something. Ylan and Jimmy, good conversation. Really appreciate it.